Without the addition of any other substances, two water molecules can interact with each other to produce a hydronium ion and a hydroxide ion by transfer of a proton from one water molecule to another. This process is called autoionization.
We've seen so far how water can act as an acid, i.e. with ammonia, NH3. It can also act as a base, i.e. with hydrogen carbonate. So water can be both an acid and a base. And when water's by itself, it actually does what's called autoionization. And that means that a small number of molecules will come together to make H3O plus and hydroxide. So at all levels and all concentrations, you're going to have some hydronium and some hydroxide at any temperature. At 25 degrees Celsius, this value has been studied quite extensively, and the value of the autoionization is 1.00 times 10 to the minus 14. This value is much, much less than 1. That means there's not a lot of products being made, and in this case, the products will be H3O plus and hydroxide. But it is an important number, as we'll see. Kw, that 1.000 times 10 to the minus 14th, that's a number you're going to want to know / memorize. We'll use that here in a little bit. The idea here is that autoionization of water happens at all temperatures, and some water will always break down into hydronium and hydroxide, which is kind of interesting. If Kw equals hydronium times hydroxide, and that equals 1.000 times 10 to the minus 14th, and if water is the only thing that's breaking down, then every two waters will make a hydronium and a hydroxide, and the hydronium and the hydroxide concentrations will be the same. So instead of saying Kw equals hydronium times hydroxide, because they're equal, you could say Kw equals hydronium squared or hydroxide squared, either way. But if you're curious as to what the value of hydronium or hydroxide is, take the square root of that Kw. So the square root of 1.00 times 10 to the minus 14th equals hydronium, and that's going to be the same number for the hydroxide. That comes out to be 1.000 times 10 to the minus 7th moles per liter. So at room temperature, 25 degrees Celsius, the concentration of hydronium and the concentration of hydroxide, 1.000 times 10 to the minus 14th. You really should memorize Kw. That's going to be something we'll use quite a bit in this section, and if you can just start getting in your brain, the better. So here's a question you might see. It says a solution has a hydronium concentration of 1.0 times 10 to the minus 18th. What is the hydroxide concentration? So at this point, what's important to remember is the Kw value, because Kw, which is 1.000 times 10 to the minus 14th, that equals hydronium and hydroxide. So if you take Kw divided by the 1.0 times 10 to the minus 8th moles per liter, you will find the concentration of your hydroxide. So if you did the math, this comes out to be 1.0 times 10 to the minus 6 moles per liter. That's the value of hydroxide when hydronium is 1.0 times 10 to the minus 8th. And notice if you multiply those numbers together, you should get Kw. Kind of cool. Now, the amount that an acid ionizes reflects on how strong the acid or base is. And first we'll talk about strong acids. Strong acids dissociate 100% into hydronium and a conjugate base. So for example, if you have a solution which is labeled HNO3AQ, you honestly don't have HNO3AQ. What you have is almost pure hydronium. So if it was 3 molar HNO3, you'd have 3 molar hydronium. And you'll also have the conjugate base of HNO3, which in this case happens to be nitrate. So that's kind of an interesting thing. Strong acids break up 100% into their conjugates and hydronium. Nitric acid is about 100% dissociated. There's no nitric acid present. It's only hydronium and nitrate. And so usually what people will do is use single-sided arrows here. This isn't an equilibrium. This is a one-way trip. It's difficult to go back. That's why it's cool to write the one-sided arrow. Weak acids, on the other hand, do not dissociate completely into hydronium and a conjugate base. Maybe they have 1 in 10,000 molecules that does this, but certainly not a lot of them. So this is an example of nitrous acid. Now, nitrous, HNO2, is different than nitric acid, which is what we saw in the last time, HNO3. Nitrous acid does dissociate. It reacts with water into hydronium and nitrite ion. However, the concentration is quite a bit less. So we're not using the one-sided arrows here. We're using double-sided arrows. And the equilibrium constants for these weak acids are called acid ionization constants, K sub A. Acid ionization constants are really only relevant for weak acids, and Ka in this case is equal to H plus times nitrite divided by HNO2, nitrous acid. Sometimes H plus is listed as H3O plus, same thing. In this case, the author just went H plus times nitrite divided by HNO2, and that's fantastic. Bases have a similar kind of process. There's strong bases and weak bases. The strong bases dissociate 100% into the hydroxide and some kind of conjugate acid. So sodium hydroxide in water actually doesn't have anything really to do with the water necessarily, but the NaOH does break up. It makes OH minus, which is really cool, and also a sodium plus ion. And you can see that they're AQ, so that means that they're floating around or something like that. Sodium hydroxide is about 100% dissociated in water. There's no NaOH. It's only hydroxide with some sodium maybe. And you really should use the single-sided arrows here to represent what's happening with the strong bases. Weak bases do not ionize 100%, just like weak acids, and there's a whole bunch of these out there. So if you have a weak base, for example ammonia, it reacts with water to make hydroxide and also ammonium. So the water goes to hydroxide, the ammonia goes to ammonium, and you are good to go. This expression right here then is called a Kb expression, a base ionization constant expression. It's products over reactants. We're not putting liquid water in because, oh my gosh. But anyway, we will put in the ammonium, the hydroxide, and divide it by the ammonia. In Chem 223, there are 5 strong acids and 3 strong bases you really have to know. We're going to encounter thousands upon thousands of acids and bases as chemists collectively, and almost all of them are weak. However, there are these 5 strong acids and 3 strong bases, so make sure you know them. So the 5 strong acids are nitric acid, HNO3, hydrochloric acid, HCl, hydrobromic acid, HBr, hydroiodic acid, HI, and hydrogen perchlorate or hyperchloric acid, which is what it's usually called, HClO4. Those are very strong acids. And so if you had a mole, say for example, of perchloric acid, you would have a mole not of perchloric acid, but actually of hydronium and also the perchlorate ion. Now the strong bases, those 3 strong bases, super important. Sodium hydroxide, potassium hydroxide, lithium hydroxide. And basically for all other bases, we can assume that they will just be weak bases. They won't be strong bases like these. So again, I highly recommend you memorize the 8 strong acids and bases, 5 acids, 3 bases. And there's a lot of uses for this beyond just this discussion, by the way. You can assume that all other acids and bases are weak unless I tell you otherwise, but it should be pretty mellow.
When nitric acid, HNO3, encounters a water molecule, it forms an acidic solution by donating a proton, the H plus ion, to the water to form a hydronium ion and a nitrate ion. Ammonia acts as a base in solution by accepting a proton from a water molecule. This liberates a hydroxide ion and results in a basic solution.
So bases, once again, will take the H+, acids will donate the H+. Another thing about acids and bases, acids always create hydronium, and bases always create hydroxides. So that's another way to tell if you have an acid and or a base. But generally what I do is I look at the reactants to products, and the conjugate species with less hydrogen will be the base, and the conjugate species with more hydrogen will be the acid.